I'll start. I'm at the Birch Library in Otay Ranch in Chula Vista.
This is Donna Gerber. I'm at the BRN building in Sacramento. I am in room 186. 180.
This is 180, is that? We're right next door to the room 190. We have a number of members of the public here that necessitated a little larger room. 186.
Yes, 186. Okay.
Elizabeth Woods, I'm at 173 Vineyard Circle in Sonoma.
Randy Phillips, I'm at 1888 Howland Drive, Walmart.
This is Imelda de Hepburn, on 200 West Jeffrey, Bakersfield, California, 96305.
And Mr. Malcolm?
I'm sorry, I had you on mute. This is Ken Marlboro. I'm at the Malcolm X Library, 5148 Market Street, San Diego, California. Study remake.
Thank you. We've established that there's a quorum. Moving on to item 2.0, public comment for items on the agenda. I don't have any members here of the public looking to make any comment.
We have some members of the public here in Sacramento that are coming to the podium. And just a reminder to the members of the public, the board will be hearing public comment, but will not be responding to public comment.
And we'd like to limit the public comment to 1 minute, since we have a busy agenda to talk about.
So please go ahead.
I thought there was a 2-minute limit to public comments. Not 1.
Please go ahead and make your comment.
This statement has been prepared by BRN staff as part of a group effort. It is with great fear of retaliation that
Please speak up.
It is with, can you hear me?
Please identify who's speaking.
This is a staff member of the Board of Registered Nursing. And this
Can you
is,
identify yourself, please?
yes, I am a staff member.
I
By
think
name?
No, I'm not going to say my name right now.
Please go ahead and make your comment.
It is with great fear of retaliation that we, staff members of the Board of Registered Nursing, approach the board today for public comment. However, it is a risk we feel we must take to stand up for what is right and to call to attention to the unlawful, and hostile acts of the EO, AEO, and 1 board member that are being allowed to continue. First and foremost, we are aware of the allegations of sexual misconduct against the executive officer, Dr. Joseph Morris, and the allegations of campaign finance fraud by the board president, Michael Jackson. Further, we feel the board has failed to take any action against Dr. Morris to date because one of its own members blurs the line of what is right and wrong himself. It appears to be a you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours mentality. And with Dr. Morris telling staff, I'm the HNIC, there is little hope for fairness. For reference, a well-known statement is HBIC, which stands for Head BITCH in charge, but he says HNIC. Second, Yvonne Leonard, the Assistant Executive Officer, is promoting a culture of retaliation by proudly proclaiming on more than one occasion that all staff positions and people are replaceable, and she has previous people she knows and or has worked with in the past lined up to replace staff and top management positions here at the BRN. That explains why she has instituted a policy of unilateral decision-making when choosing candidates for positions, rather than allowing the manager to choose, which is a violation of state personnel board policy. She also has been witness boasting in a daring manner that I've never lost an employee complaint. We have heard that you, the board members, are hesitant to believe any of the complaints by staff and that you side with false reports because of the lack of voiced concerns up until recently. But let me tell you this here and now. Staff have been fearful of voicing any of our experiences because of fear of retaliation. when a head executive routinely says that she is not afraid of the state personnel board because she's never lost a complaint and that she has someone lined up to take your spot, that is intimidation. Please, board members, we urge you to remove those in power that are seeking to tear down the Board of Registered Nursing. All of the above incidents have created a hostile work environment for staff. Every day we work to protect the public, and today we ask that you help protect us, the loyal and brave BRN staff. This statement is signed by multiple staff members. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more public comment?
Hello? Staff is aware of the legal hiring practices currently taking place at the Board of Registered Nursing under Executive Officer Dr. Joseph Morris and Assistant Executive
Please speak up.
Officer. Staff is aware of the, okay, can you hear me? Staff?
Yes.
Staff is aware of the illegal hiring practices currently taking place at the Board of Registered Nursing under Executive Officer Dr. Joseph Morris and Assistant Executive Officer Yvonne Leonard. We are confident that an investigation will reveal that those currently in power at the board feel that laws and regulations do not apply to them. We are formally requesting that a cease and desist order be imposed on all hiring practices at the board until this matter has been thoroughly investigated by an outside agency. Thank you.
Before I begin, are the callers able to hear me clearly?
Yes, we are.
Who's speaking?
My name is LaShonda Shannon, and I am a board staff member. I know you may be thinking that a hostile work environment is a personnel matter that should be resolved internally, but I need for you to understand today that the implications of having an executive officer who sexually harasses and displays violent behavior towards women is more than a personnel matter. The enforcement chief, the chief of licensing, the chief of probation, the chief of discipline, and all three special investigator supervisors are women. How is a woman supposed to present business solutions or recommend program changes when they're afraid to be behind closed doors with the executive officer? How do we expect a woman to feel comfortable delivering a presentation regarding the needs of the unit when the executive officer is undressing her with her eyes, licking his lips, and saying lewd comments? The board members have protected this man, and the implications are grave. The BRN is failing the healthcare consumers and the nurses of this state. In terms of investigation cycle times, RN David Johnson, license number 852178, was arrested in April 2017 for domestic violence. He tested positive for methamphetamine and admitted to officers that he smoked methamphetamine with his girlfriend. The board did not implement an interim suspension order. The nurse practiced without any monitoring or supervision for 2 years, as an action was not taken until September of 2019. And that action, placing the nurse on probation, is not what the disciplinary guidelines stipulate. Probation is the only appropriate option when the licensee has documented evidence of an ongoing rehabilitation program. And according to the administrative law judge in this particular case, the licensee failed to present any evidence to corroborate his assertion that he has put his past drug use behind him. He did not provide any evidence that showed he's rehabilitated. He did not commit himself to any sustained program of rehabilitation, has no sponsor, and no sobriety date. The board member failed to protect patients and the public in this case and so many others like it. And as an update, Nurse David Johnson was arrested again for possession of pipes used to smoke methamphetamine. Hopefully he's not working at any of the hospitals where you, your family, or your friends are receiving care. Equally alarming, in September 2019, the Board of Registered Nursing changed the existing case referral guidelines for BRN complaint investigations. The changes directly affect quality of care complaints that allege significant patient harm and/or patient death. Previously, these urgent priority cases were referred only to the Division of Investigation. Now, nearly all direct patient care complaints, including allegations of patient harm and death, will be retained and investigated by non-sworn BRN investigators. Review of the last 2 years of case referral data predicts that the BRN investigation unit will receive approximately 100 more cases, yet there has not been and will not be an augmentation to BRN investigative staff. The recently approved budget change proposal did not allocate any positions to the BRN investigative staff. This is not an effective solution for addressing the Division of Investigation's inability to efficiently investigate complaints. But when the board members and the executive officer are ignorant of the basic board business processes, these are the types of decisions that are made. Dr. Joseph Morris and the Division of Investigation Chief, David M. Chris, concocted this backdoor deal without any input from enforcement or special investigator managers and have yet to inform the legislature of these substantive changes. In terms of access to care, my niece is currently taking GE classes semester after semester because the community college and CSU schools in the Central Valley have impacted nursing programs. She is one of thousands. The board members in the EO should be working with stakeholders to promulgate new regulations that address the nursing programs. They should be tasking the nursing education consultants to research what states are doing to work to eradicate clinical displacement, but instead, members and the executive officer have turned a blind eye and are bottlenecking the school approval process. The most recent audit of the board's school approval process will show there are no procedures or guidelines in place for school approvals. This has not been a priority for them. Consequently, American Career College is currently suing the board to challenge its authority regarding the capping of school enrollment. The board is spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on litigation and audits because board members and the executive officer are not carrying out the duties of their position. It should also be noted that the assistant executive officer, Yvonne Leonard, has unilaterally restructured the organization. Instead of reporting to the executive officer, who by law is required to be a nurse, nursing education consultants are now reporting to the chief executive assignment of licensing. How is a nursing education consultant with advanced certifications, doctorates of nursing, and clinical experience supposed to receive clarification and direction from an individual who has no clinical nursing background or education? Additionally, it's taking the board 2 to 4 weeks to change a license from inactive to inactive because of an antiquated system of paper forms and accepting paper checks. Again, while the board members have closed session after closed session addressing the complaints against the executive officer and go on a campaign trail to retain their members as board members, they are neglecting their duty. Nurses who are willing and able to work cannot for 2 to 4 weeks as they wait on the board to process their requests. If the inactive status was selected inadvertently, the livelihood of a nurse and his patients is on hold. No shifts, no patient care. In terms of legislation, Assembly Bill 241 requires implicit bias training for healthcare providers so that they can understand how implicit biases impact medical treatment. Board members and the executive officer took a position of opposition, not because it was a bad bill, but because they were not competent enough to develop a feasible business plan to implement the bill's requirements. According to a recent study published by the American Heart Association, Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes than white women. What these board members fail to realize is that the 1 in 3 Black women equates to me, my sister, and my friend Angie, who went into a hospital in East Oakland, California, where all the patients looked like her, but none of the doctors and nurses did. After giving birth, she complained of pain, but her pains and concerns went unheard because the implicit biases of the staff working there said her complaints didn't matter. The pain got worse and we watched her skin go pale as her eyes began to roll in the back of her head. It took her boyfriend physically running up and down the hallways of this East Oakland hospital screaming for help to get the white nurses and doctors in the hospital to listen. Her placenta had not detached and she was bleeding internally. Fortunately, emergency surgery saved her life, but that's not the case for so many other Black women. The board members have failed me, my sisters, and my cousin, but thankfully the assembly members and the senators and the governor of this state chose to ignore the board's position and implement the measure anyway. I know the board members and the executive officer are telling the assembly members, the senators, the chief of staff, including the consultant health staff here today, that they're working on things. But please know that is not true, and that is only an attempt to retain their position as members. The January 2019 recommendations not fully implemented after 1 year audit report shows that 8 high priority audit recommendations are more than 1 year old and still have not been implemented. The audit also found that the board claimed it fully implemented more than half of the 8 recommendations, but failed to provide actual proof as such. Nothing has been done or is being done since 2016. Today is January 16, 2020. California Business and Professions Code Section 2706 states that the governor has the power to remove any member of the board from the office for neglect of duty required by law, for incompetency, for unprofessional or dishonorable conduct. The executive officer and the board members have repeatedly demonstrated neglect of duty, incompetency, and some even dishonorable conduct, as board president Michael D'Angelo Jackson was recently fined by the Fair Political Practice Commission for illegally using campaigns fund for personal use. The executive officer is plagued with sexual harassment complaints and has also received close to $60,000 in payments as income from schools the board approves and regulates. Our vision states that we are to be the premier board of nursing, but that is impossible with inept, unethical, incompetent board members and executive officer. I ask that you here today relay what you have heard to the assembly members and the senators that you represent, and that measures are passed to audit the board's business processes, and that the legislature expeditiously acts to remove the current board members. The authority of the Board of Registered Nursing should be transferred to the State Department of Consumer Affairs until the governor and the legislature appoint a new executive officer and board members who understand their position, their roles, and their duties as members of the largest healing arts board in the United States. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Does any other member of the public wish to speak? Nobody else is coming forward. Member Jackson here in Sacramento.
Nobody here at my location.
President Jackson, since I believe the members of the public that are attending are solely in the meeting room that I'm in, I just wanted to say to the members of the public here that the board takes seriously any allegations, and the board has been actively involved in investigating, to the best of our ability, allegations that have come forth. And on a personal note, I appreciate the fact that people have shown up today to make comments, and I, on behalf of the members that aren't sitting here in front of you, personally can assure you that all the board members who've been working diligently for many longer than me, I've been here since 2016, we have done everything we can, and we will continue to do everything we can to listen, to look at allegations, to solicit investigations both by appropriate staff and also outside entities, because it's important to the board that we get to the bottom of anything that comes our way. So that's just my comment as a board member.
This is the announcement they have papers and papers, so we have no one from the public.
Brandy Phillips, Simone Creek, nobody from the public.
Elizabeth Wilson, Sonoma, no members.
Ken Marlborough and Malcolm X Library in San Diego. I have no members of the public here.
Donna, thank you for your comments. Thank the public members for their comments. At this time, we'll now go into closed session.